The Great Lakes, the largest global freshwater system, contain more than 20% of the planet's available freshwater and 84% of the fresh surface water in North America. The waters of Lake Superior alone could cover all of North and South America under a foot of water. The lakes encompass a footprint larger than the entire United Kingdom and include more than 30,000 islands and 9,000 miles of shoreline. Michigan is home to 11,000 inland lakes and has over 100 major rivers. 16 rivers are designated by the state of Michigan as natural rivers and are protected to preserve fish, wildlife, ecological health, and scenic values. The Great Lakes were formed 20,000 years ago when the last glacial continental ice sheet retreated. As the glaciers melted, water filled the basins left behind by the scouring force of ice. The lakes have had their current shape and relative water levels for the last 3,000 to 4,000 years. Michigan's connection to the Great Lakes is like no other place. Michigan touches 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, and from anywhere in the state, you are never more than 85 miles from a Great Lake. Michigan's people have been connected to water and the Great Lakes from the very beginning. The Anishinaabe teach their children of the Great Migration to the land where food grows on the water. This land was Michigan, and the food was wild rice, known to the tribes as manaman, which holds deep spiritual and cultural significance.
Wild rice, or manaman as it's known in the language of the Anishinaabe, has long been a critical food resource here in the Great Lakes. It's been gathered for as long as anybody knows. Perhaps back in the day, it would have been stored in ceramic pots like the prehistoric example that you see here. It is well known that it has been stored in woven bags, such as you see here, this wonderful woven bag. Could be served in all sorts of dishes, perhaps from scoops or spoons of this sort. But before that can happen, you would have to process and winnow the grain, and you would winnow it using a tray like this. Now, granted, this is quite a small one, almost a toy size, but imagine this on a larger scale. The Menominee people, in fact, draw their name from this staple, manaman or wild rice, but it remains a critical source of food and sometimes income for native peoples of the northern Great Lakes right up until today.
Great Lakes water was also central to the lives of settlers. They used Michigan's waters to float white pine logs down rivers, power sawmills, and water their first crops. Following the logging boom, fishing towns sprang up along the coasts where anglers pulled nourishment and wealth from the lakes. When logging began in the upper and lower peninsulas, the large white pines harvested helped rebuild Chicago after the Great Fire. The lumber was used for the westward expansion of the United States, as well as for masts for the English Navy. The logging boom brought settlers to northern Michigan. These logging towns were bustling and vibrant with opera houses, schools, churches, and housing for the workers and families. When the trees were gone, the people left, and some remnants of these ghost towns remain. Logging still impacts Michigan's economy today. There are over 20 million acres of forest land, and 65% is owned by private individuals. The forest products industry provides 96,000 jobs and contributes $20 billion to Michigan's economy. Protecting and using proper stewardship practices of our forests will allow us to harvest wood products responsibly while enhancing wildlife habitats and protecting water quality. Fishing was a major contributing factor in the settlement of the Great Lakes. It became a big business with the invention of large nets and automation that could lift the nets out of the water. Fishtown in Leland, Michigan, was established in the 1850s and is one of the last working and thriving fishing districts on the Great Lakes. An era of growth in industry and manufacturing kept Michigan close to the water. The steel that built America was carried on mighty lakers, freighters that carry grain, ore, and goods over the sweetwater seas. Waterways were, and remain, efficient highway systems, first carrying canoes, then fish tugs, and today, freighters and pleasure craft. Growing calls to value water as not just a resource to be used, but something we need to care for, prompted the establishment of modern environmental protection laws and an increasing stewardship ethic.
So our fundamental mission within our shop, within EPA, is to restore and to protect these lakes. And in recent years, Congress has been very generous with the funding to help us do that. So a Great Lakes success story, there's a lot of them, and it's hard to pick just one, but picking just one, I would focus on what we call our Area of Concern program. So you may hear people talk about AOCs, Areas of Concern. Well, what does that mean? Well, going back to the mid-1980s, the United States and Canada jointly identified 43 areas in the Great Lakes that were really dirty, really polluted, really contaminated. And they identified them, people started working on them. There wasn't much money to actually do much restoration work. Since the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative started in 2010, and another way to say that is since Congress started providing money to this program, we've been able to delist, meaning clean up and take off that list, which means that's 6 areas that are now essentially like the surrounding areas within the Great Lakes. We've pulled out contaminated sediment, we've restored habitat, the fish will no longer be taking up those contaminants, the bottom-dwelling organisms will no longer be unable to establish there because of various contaminants. And again, in the US, there are 31 of these areas of concerns, 6 of them on the delisting list, and we're doing a lot of work and spending a lot of money on the others as well.
The Great Lakes shape Michigan's climate, supporting a rich agricultural heritage and one of the most diverse agricultural industries in the country. Agriculture is vital to Michigan's economic health, leading the nation in the production of 20 commodities. With over 50,000 farms, the food and agriculture industries annually contribute over $100 billion to Michigan's economy.
We get asked a lot about how organic farming can help improve water quality, and the truth is it's a lot of science, a lot of hard science and soft science, and every farm is different. I try not to put everybody into one bucket, but one of the simplest things is all of the amendments used on an organic farm, the sort of fertilizers, so to speak, are by and large, of this earth and slow release. And so when you think about nutrient imbalances or throwing off, runoff into the waterways, the amendments and fertilizers organic farmers are using really don't have such a dramatic, rapid effect on waterways. Now, they can be used wrong too, don't get me wrong, but in general, they're slow release, less potent, and from natural sources, which can make a big difference in terms of what the environment beyond our farm can do with those materials. And so I think that's another thing to keep in mind is there's nothing that's really toxic around here. And that makes a big difference for both our health and the water and environment around us.
Commercial shipping is also an essential part of the Great Lakes economy. In 2010, 355 million tons of cargo was handled within the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system, generating $47.7 billion in economic impact. With economic and cultural impact, recreation is an important part of the Michigan tradition. Tourism is one of Michigan's top industries. The Great Lakes Experience annually draws thousands of people to the Peninsula Playground. Ranked fifth in the nation, Michigan sells 1.1 million fishing licenses annually and is home to 80 public harbors, 400 private marinas, and 1,300 public boat launches. In 2016, anglers contributed $2.3 billion to Michigan's economy. Michigan is also home to more than 4,000 miles of water trails enjoyed by paddling enthusiasts who take to the water on kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards. In Michigan, you are never more than 6 miles from a body of water, so there are plenty of opportunities to enjoy Michigan's lakes, rivers, and streams. Restoration and conservation projects implemented by organizations such as Huron Pines help protect water quality and critical habitats. For every dollar spent in Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funding, an estimated $3.35 in economic activity is produced. This road stream crossing is an important project for improving habitat for trout and other native species. Outdoor recreation is also a vital part of Michigan's economy, annually generating $9.5 billion in economic impact. For this to continue well into the future, we must continue to invest in the health of our environment. Threats to the Great Lakes have the potential to harm people's relationship to water. Historical water-using industries often exploited water resources, but careful management has resulted in the resurgence of fish and wildlife populations and healthier waters. However, there is more to be done. Protecting water resources is important for a variety of reasons. Clean water is vital to our health and survival. We use it to drink, grow our food, and it serves as habitat for fish and wildlife. Management of invasive species, non-native plants and animals that cause harm, incur annual costs of more than $100 million in the Great Lakes. More than 180 invasives have been detected in the Great Lakes. Once established, invasive species are expensive to control and difficult to eradicate, making prevention key.
I think the Great Lakes will be here a lot longer than I am. So I think we need to make sure that the people who live past us also can experience the beauty and the joy and the resources we have in the Great Lakes.
Over 30 million people rely on the Great Lakes for drinking water. Much of our water infrastructure was built 50 to 100 years ago and is in poor condition, threatening public health and water quality. An American Society of Civil Engineers report card for America's infrastructure ranks Michigan as a D+. Due to outdated and underfunded systems, an average of 5.7 billion gallons of raw sewage flows into Michigan waters every year. These systems need investment and upgrades to support healthy people, ecosystems, and economies. How can you help? Be a water steward. The lakes, rivers, and streams of Michigan provide the water we drink. and an invaluable resource for our quality of life, recreation, and the economy. Leave no trace. Pack it in, pack it out. Preserve the past. Examine, photograph, but do not touch cultural or historic structures and artifacts. Leave rocks, plants, and other natural objects as you find them. While you may just be trying to enjoy a hike through your nearest trail or catch some fish in a local stream or river, you could be unknowingly collecting invasive species from your boots and waders. Make sure to hose and wipe down your boots and waders after each use to slow or even stop the spread of unwanted plants and animals. When you go to your local stream, river, or creek to fish, bait can often take the form of an invasive species in a worm or fish. If possible, seek out native bait. When finished fishing, do not dump your bait into the water. Stormwater is any water that falls to the ground, including rain, hail, and snow. This water flows off ground surfaces and into our underground pipe system, where it makes its way into local waterways. Stormwater infrastructure plays a critical role in enhancing the local environment and protecting public health. While stormwater is not inherently problematic, it picks up what's on the ground and brings it into our waterways. This could include garbage, pet waste, fertilizers, motor oil, and more. Our access to water is our most precious natural asset. We need to keep it fresh by only allowing rain down the storm drain. Keep storm drains clean of debris and sweep lawn clippings and excess fertilizer back onto your lawn. Plant trees to shade thirsty lawns and anchor soil. Garden with native plants to help bees and butterflies. Never fertilize your lawn before a storm event. If possible, reduce the amount of chemicals you apply to your lawn, including pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. Use pesticides sparingly to keep them out of waterways, and capture the rain in a barrel or rain garden to slow stormwater runoff. Trees are important. Not only are they aesthetically pleasing, they do many things for our environment. They provide shade, cooling the land and the water. They provide habitat for fish, turtles, and other aquatic animals. They intercept rainfall, reducing erosion by slowing the movement of rainwater. Their roots improve soil structure and enhance infiltration of rain, reducing surface runoff. Planting trees is a simple way to protect our lakes, rivers, and streams. Check with your county or community and find out how and where to dispose of household hazardous waste. Dispose of pet waste promptly and clean up the yard before watering grass. Feeding ducks and geese may seem harmless, but in fact can be harmful to our water. Feeding waterfowl causes them to become dependent on humans and results in high populations in parks, where overaccumulation of waste pollutes water with harmful bacteria. We can also protect water in our home. The water that you flush down your toilet or run down your sink drain goes back into our wastewater system. Thanks to the hard work and expertise of our wastewater treatment providers, this water is treated and then distributed into our lakes and rivers, and the cycle repeats. Our wastewater system is well equipped for handling our waste. That is, until we start sending things down the drain that the system can't handle. Things such as flushable wipes, feminine products, and paper towels create obstructions in the system. It prevents water from flowing to our treatment plants. Avoid flushing medications down the toilet or drain when another safe option is available. Only flush the 3 P's down the toilet: pee, poop, and paper. The Great Lakes are part of our DNA. They helped define our identity and how we live, work, and play. Those who live near or around the Great Lakes enjoy a deep personal and cultural connection to these waters and to neighboring lakes, rivers, and streams. But we are all dependent on the availability of fresh water. It's critical to our very survival. In that sense, we have all become peoples of the Great Lakes, carrying a responsibility to future generations to ensure the sustainability of these majestic waters and the rich cultural heritage they've inspired.